Protecting history on the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft has always been a challenge. On a server with no rules, anything you build can be blown up at any time. But in the past year, a group of players has been using an anti-griefing technique to help protect bases and other famous landmarks from destruction. And it's so simple, it's genius. It involves water. A lot of water. A movement has begun to protect famous builds on the server with massive water cubes to make them much harder to grief. These cubes have been springing up across the server, and this movement all began with a single person attempting to restore one of the server's most famous structures. So today, we'll be taking a look at the history of how this movement began, why it began, and how these massive water cubes are even made in the first place. We'll also be logging into the server itself to see how well these historic sites have held up with water protecting them. We have a lot to discuss today, so let's get started. 7 months ago, a player named Speed Demon was patrolling the wasteland known as 2B2T Spawn. On his normal patrol route, he would always pass a giant mess of floating obsidian blocks covered in layers of cobblestone. This monstrosity was all that remained of one of the server's most historic builds, Wrath Outpost. If you didn't know, in 2015, Wrath was the largest obsidian structure ever built on the server. Only 1,000 blocks away from 0-0, it served as a base for members of the 3rd Incursion who were fighting to take control of Spawn. Since it was guarded 24/7, everyone that tried to grief the outpost failed. A big part of this was because at the time, withers were disabled on the server. Without them, the only way to grief obsidian was to mine each block by hand, which was almost impossible to do without being attacked by the guards. Wrath stayed protected for the entirety of the spawn occupation, but when everyone went their separate ways and abandoned the outpost, it slowly began to crumble. Withers were eventually re-enabled, and over the next 5 years, Wrath would be the target of lava casting and griefing, until it became the unrecognizable mess that Speed Demon would walk past every week. He was upset that new players would walk past it and have no idea what it actually was. He decided to take it upon himself to do the impossible. He wanted to completely rebuild Wrath, block for block, and return it to its former glory. This was not going to be easy though. Every previous attempt at restoring the outpost had failed, to the point where you'd be laughed at if you told people you wanted to rebuild it. Regardless, he began his efforts on January 1st, 2020. He started by setting up TNT bombers in order to get rid of the lava casts. It was a tedious process, especially since he was working alone. As the bombings continued, other players began to notice what Demon was doing, and much to his surprise, they began helping him. Together with his new allies, as well as some old friends, they cleared every piece of cobblestone off of the ruins. From there, they began placing the missing blocks of Avi that had been destroyed from 5 years of griefing. While things were going smoothly, Demon became worried. If word started to spread that Wrath was being rebuilt, it wouldn't take long for griefers to show up and start destroying everything. So as they worked around the clock, players volunteered to guard the outpost, just like it had been guarded 5 years previously. By everyone working together, Wrath had gone from unrecognizable ruins back to its former glory, and it happened in less than a week. So for the second time in the server's history, Wrath became a symbol of what teamwork in a hostile environment could look like. But with the completion of Wrath, a new problem arose: protecting it. The group came to the consensus that the only way to keep Wrath alive for a long period of time was to take it a step further than the Incursion did in 2015. They needed to completely submerge the base in water. Water cubes have been created on 2B2T in the past, but until this point, they had never been used to protect specific bases, especially ones with historical significance. Water completely prevents classic griefing techniques such as withers, TNT explosions, and many varieties of redstone contraptions. Creating water cubes is a very tedious process. Ice blocks need to be brought in and broken in order to create the water source blocks necessary. It took an extra week of tedious ice placement, but with hard work, the water cube surrounding Wrath was completed, and as expected, was incredibly effective at stopping griefers. Soon, other historic landmarks on 2B2T, such as the Bedrock Comet, began to receive the water cube treatment. One player's actions had started a movement to protect history on the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. But that was 7 months ago. Did these water cubes actually work at stopping griefers? It's time for us to take a look for ourselves. I'll be making stops at the different water cubes across 2B2T to see how well they've all held up. And as someone who helped build the original Wrath outpost in 2015 and guarded it round the clock, I'm excited to see how well the water cube has protected Wrath. Let's do this. So here we are on 2B2T in the Nether, getting ready to head to spawn to see Wrath's water cube first, then we'll be heading to Passy Town to see the submerged Bedrock Comet. Now, hopefully both of these things are still intact. This is going to be interesting, so I'm glad that you're here to see these things with me. And if you enjoy the content I put out, consider hitting that subscribe button to support the channel. No pressure though. I just realized something. Is covering things in water technically a war against air? I mean, you've all joked in my comments section for months, but I think that this is probably the closest thing we'll get to something like that. I can't believe it. 7 months later, the water is still successfully protecting Wrath Outpost. Oh, we need to take a closer look pronto. Oh my god. Block for block, it looks the exact same as it did 5 years ago. So this is one hell of a faithful recreation, let me tell you. Oh my god, this is very nostalgic for me. I really forgot just how massive Wrath actually is. And the fact that they did this in a week. Wow. Wrath passed the test. It is still standing thanks to that water cube, but now we need to head towards Passy Town to see the Bedrock Comet. I've got a bad feeling about this next place because the Bedrock Comet has been the target of griefers for months now. They're trying to delete every piece of bedrock in the comet. So I don't have very high hopes for this place. The terrain is already pretty beat up, and you gotta remember, just a few months ago, this was the same place where furnaces got weaponized on 2B2T. So this place has been through a lot of trauma over the past few months. Looks like the water cube is still there, and it's still protecting what's left of the comet. Now, a lot of you in my comments section have said, well, Fit, that's actually a marker from Dead Space. Yeah, but on the server, everyone's always called it the Bedrock Comet, okay? I don't come up with the names, alright? I just say them. Taking a closer look at the inside right now, much of the bedrock is still there, but you can see bits and pieces of it have been taken out, so who knows how long this thing is going to last. But the water cube, in addition to the obsidian covering the bedrock, seems to be doing a really good job of protecting it. And luckily no one's here right now because I'm on at like 5 a.m. I decided to check on the bedrock bunker that I made a video on about a year ago, and sure enough, the entire thing is gone. Every piece of bedrock in it deleted using exploits. You know, it's always been a double-edged sword. By making videos about 2B2T, we preserve the history of the server in a digital format, but the extra attention these places receive tend to make them targets for griefing. So we can preserve the memory of these places, but it comes at a cost. On a server with no rules, it's just something you gotta deal with. I'm back topside now, and I'm just admiring how well this water is protecting the Bedrock Comet. So the water cube method works. It has prevented griefing of major structures on 2B2T. So Speed Demon, it's crazy to think that this one guy started this whole movement to try and protect history on 2B2T. And you know what? Anyone that protects the history of this server has admiration from me, let me tell you. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on when new 2B2T content is coming out. But that's it for today, everyone. Take it easy, and if you plan to play on 2B2T, Just make sure to stay alive out there.